Have you ever watched an anime and truly believed it was written, animated, voice acted, edited, and distributed just for you? Well, I don't know who you are and what you like, so I'm just gonna talk about my own experience. Back in the good old days of 2010, a little light novel titled MM was adapted into a 12-episode TV anime. Some of you might be thinking, how is that a light novel title? The name is so short! Or, what do the M's stand for? Well, my dear viewers, shut up, I'm about to get there! The two M's stands for masochist. Yes, my dear viewers, this anime was conceptualized, crafted, and created to be watched with my very own eyes. How so? Because it's an unadulterated, over 6 hours of pure violent tsundere awesomeness. This show follows Taro, an ordinary, average Joe, generic high school boy with one exceptional trait. He's a massive masochist. We're not talking just a casual level of masochism either. We're talking full-blown BDSM, pecking enthusiast level of masochism. Plagued by his own degeneracy, Sato is often ostracized by others and is unable to have any proper relationships, especially romantic ones. Because of this internal struggle, his only friend Tatsukichi suggests that he seeks help from the people over at the Second Voluntary Club. There he meets one of the best gifts goddess ever bestow mankind, Isuruki Mio, the president of the club and the best kind of flat-chested tsundere waifu you could ever ask for. Mio and Taro's relationship was why I believe this anime was literally made for me. A main character who wholeheartedly enjoys physical abuse from their tsundere heroine. If you know anything about me, then you know I eat up shit like Chaka no Shana, Sero no Tsukaima, Hayate no Gotoku, Toradora, and Hida no Aria any day. Well, that used to be the case until I ruminate more on MM and its overarching theme. And this overarching theme is about Taro's masochism and how it actually fixes his relationship problems, despite causing them in the first place. Of course, Taro's masochism is something he himself would prefer to get rid of. However, if it wasn't for his masochism, he wouldn't have made all the connections he has throughout the entire series. His insecurity is rooted in the fear that his masochism would not permit him to ever be loved or accepted by anyone. Moreover, he's afraid there will never be a time he can genuinely love someone without the urge to give in to his shameful desires. These worries persist until he joins the Second Volunteer Club, a place who has welcomed him with open arms, in spite of the kind of person he is. This is perhaps a better reason as to why I believe this anime was made for me. An anime that emphasizes on the core values of what the anime community should be. A place filled with degenerates and outcasts who band together because no one else could ever understand them but themselves. The first one to welcome Taro to the club is of course Mio, the club president and possibly Ayana Taketatsu's best role until Nino comes along. Wait, am I forgetting someone? She's a loudmouth, violent Ojo-sama type tsundere with a flat chest and blonde hair. Holy shit, she's literally perfect. Despite her brutal physical and verbal abuse, she has an ambition to help others in need. Sure, she may claim that her reasoning is because she's a god taking care of her lowly subjects. Sure, she drop kicks Taro in every episode. But hey, she's only doing it to help Taro get over his masochism. Not cause like, she's a total 100% certified sadist or anything. Baka. On a more serious note, I believe there's way more to Mio's desire to help those in need, rather than just an excuse to beat the shit out of people. In episode 4, Mio suggests that Taro goes on a date with her under the guise that love might be the cure to his masochism after all. Within this episode, we learn that Mio's mission as the god to grant wishes for the sake of others is born out of genuine selflessness, which really contrasts her usual demeanor, evident by how she was willing to go on this elaborate date with Taro despite the fact that she has always had a sickly body since childhood. We also learn that her frail body prevented her from going outside like the other kids, which caused her to feel like she couldn't fit in anywhere. Although the simplest way to interpret Mio in this episode is to conclude that she just harbors feelings for Taro, I would like to instead focus on why she would be. When asked to list things she likes about him, Mio deflects by giving her usual Sune answers. Later in the episode, she is taken to the hospital after collapsing. Right then, she finally opens up and confesses that she likes how much Taro is willing to go to protect those he cares about. Therefore, I believe her admiration of Taro's nobility is an explanation of her life's mission to grant wishes as a god. She wants to help those in need, but specifically those that feel like they're outcast, unable to fit in anywhere. If you look at the two she is invited to the club, Taro and Yuno, both fit this description perfectly. In other words, she intends to save those whom she believes have had to go through what she went through as a child, to give a special place for those who experience solitude. A place they can belong. Her methods might be cartoonishly cruel, but her relationship with Taro is one of the only times both of them are comfortable with being their true selves. Taro doesn't need to hide his perverted nature, while Mio can just let her violent tendency roam free. Ultimately, their bond goes deeper than just a sadist and masochist duo, since they both allow themselves to be who they are without any judgment of others. As a result, Mio has saved Taro from life of alienation and given him a community he can finally be a part of. Although she hides it with her sunness, Mio loves Taro for who he is, even if he's a masochist. In one episode where Taro loses his memories, Mio becomes incredibly sad. This is because to her, Taro without memories of her, the club, and his masochism, he wouldn't be Taro anymore. Even if they could cure his masochism, he wouldn't be the same Taro they all know and love. To deny his masochism is to deny his nature, his entire existence. The irony of the story is that Taro wants to cure his masochism because he was afraid no one would accept him for who he is. But he never realized that it was because of his masochism that he found people who would accept him for who he is. While Taro's relationship with Mio helps him find a community to belong to, his relationship with Arashiko would strengthen his resolve to protect that community. Besides our beloved club president, there's another sadist in the group that goes by the name of Arashiko Yuno. Unlike Mio, Yuno is not a sadist by choice, but rather unintentionally due to her androphobia. Her androphobia is so severe that she will uncontrollably attack any male that comes into contact with her. Though her condition may fulfill Taro's masochistic urges, it makes their relationship frustrating. Initially, Yuno has a hard time even being near Taro, and Taro has to always keep a distance if they want to talk at all. In spite of that, they both are able to come to understand one another after the story arc about Yuno's tragic backstory. In her backstory, she was once a regular person without any androphobia and lived a normal life. It's not until one day a popular senpai from her school asked her out, and she accepted because of peer pressure. At one point, the senpai gets into a room alone with Yuno and forces himself on her. Since Yuno retaliates by scratching the senpai's face, he physically assaults her horribly. This incident traumatized her so much that it became the reason behind her androphobia. Just when you believe her suffering is over, the senpai character reappears in the present day to threaten Yuno once again. After Yuno was warned to keep their history a secret, she completely shuts herself off from the rest of the world. As soon as Taro is aware of the situation, he confronts and defeats him in the most spectacular way possible that can only be done in this show, by the power of his masochism. This arc really illustrates why Taro's relationship with Yuno is just as integral to the series' theme as his relationship with Mio. Whereas Mio functions as the savior for an outcast like Taro, Yuno symbolizes someone on the same boat as him. Indeed, Yuno and Taro are very different in terms of the severity of their complexes. However, it's undeniable that they both have had to endure some level of social obstacle because of their abnormality. But It is because they share the same pain of being misunderstood that they're able to understand each other better than anyone else could. Even in times of crisis, they both come to learn that they will always be there for each other no matter what. And if that isn't how comrades in the same community should support one another, then I don't know what is. Of course, I will never sit here and lie to y'all that I only like MM because of its profound themes about community and acceptance. I love the ridiculous slapstick comedy, I love how Mio's like the perfect anime waifu, I love how fun and energetic both the OP and ED are, I love how adorable the art style is, and I love how there's a fight scene inspired by Kamen Rider and Dragon Ball Z, except they use what's called pervert energy as a source for their superpowers. Even with how self-indulgent MM is, it's still as sincere about itself as any edgy rom-com can possibly be. With that sincerity comes this warm sensation that welcomes me to a place I feel like I've been away from for quite some time. A place without judgment or prejudice from others. This was the same feeling I felt towards discovering the anime community for the first time. A place where I could discover like-minded individuals who were just as passionate as I was about this medium. A medium that, unfortunately, some cannot comprehend its appeal. Anime to the general public is still very much a fringe, niche, and relatively problematic medium. Certainly has become much more mainstream in the last decade or so, especially in English-speaking communities. However, with a wider spread of exposure also come much more resistance and scrutiny from the public eye. As a result, there's so much tension between those who call themselves gatekeepers and those who are called tourists on online space. Bro, like, just go on Twitter and you'll know what I'm talking about. Holy shit, Jimmy, what the fuck? Therefore, it often feels disheartening at times when you simply want to express passion for your hobby without backlash and vitriol. Perhaps MM represents a simpler time, an idealized version of the past when the anime community wasn't so divisive. A distant past that may or may not exist, when everybody were able to embrace their French identities without so much backlash from either side. I'm definitely not suggesting the community is horrible now because of so-called tourists ruining it. More so, it feels like a lot of us have given into the allure of culture war and online political activism, to a point where our appreciation of anime as a medium becomes secondary to our pointless crusades towards those we deem as antis or tourists. Basically, our favorite medium has been hijacked by people who probably don't even care about anime in the first place. Thus, a show like MM is a welcome change of pace. It provides this sense of freedom and novelty because of how detached it is from the current climate of anime discourse. I'm not ignorant enough to imply that the modern anime community is entirely awful and I yearn for the good old days like some out-of-touch grandpa. Still, it's comforting to come back to a show like MM that embodies a carefree attitude without a hint of superficiality. With that honesty comes your true self and the courage to find those that will not reject that true self. With that lesson in mind, I'm just gonna go back to simping for Mio now. Whoa, Mio-sama, please step on me, please whip me and stab me with 1,000 needles. Please, 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 I'm your lowly, filthy royal dog, please. Hey, just a pun here. So before I let you guys go, I would just like to inform everybody of the unfortunate passing of MM's light novel author, the original author of the series, Akinari Masuno, and his passing back in April 18, 2011, which is an unfortunate event because of how much this series means to me, and I'm really glad that Akinari made such a fun, lovable, emotionally riveting story. I know that sounds ridiculous, talking about like this, rom-com harem edgy series, but I truly feel that way, and And it's sad that the author passed away before the series concluded. So fans were left on a big cliffhanger, and it's truly unfortunate. And may he rest in peace. Now back to the real outro. And that's why, my dear audience, is why I believe MM was really made for me. Nothing more, nothing less. See you in the next one.